This is the story of how I learned the hard way that sometimes the person you love the most can ignore you until it's too late. My name is Ethan. Back then, we were inseparable, the kind of couple people would look at and say, yeah, those two are meant to be. Our love felt effortless. Late-night drives, deep conversations, just the two of us wrapped up in each other like nothing else in the world mattered. When we got married, it wasn't even a question. It just felt right. We had big dreams. Traveling, building a future together, maybe even starting a family someday. And for a while, everything seemed perfect. But life has a way of shifting when you least expect it. I was working hard to build my business from scratch, putting in long hours and making sacrifices. But no matter how much I had on my plate, Madison always came first. I made sure to carve out time for her. Small surprises, spontaneous date nights, or just sitting together and talking at the end of a long day. I never wanted her to doubt that she mattered. And at first, she didn't. She was proud of me, supportive, my biggest cheerleader. But then, little by little, she started changing. It began with small things, mentioning that she needed more me time, saying she wanted to focus on herself. I understood that. Everyone needs space to grow. But soon, it became something else. She started talking about putting herself first. And at first, I assumed she meant self-care, working out, reading more, doing things that made her happy. But that wasn't it at all. What she really meant was doing whatever she wanted, regardless of how it affected us. She stopped trying. Our plans? She didn't care anymore. My day? She barely asked. Yet, at the same time, she still expected to be treated like she was the most important person in my life. It was as if she wanted all the perks of being married without actually being a wife. At first, I convinced myself it was just a rough patch. Every marriage has ups and downs, right? So, I did what any loving husband would do. I tried harder. I avoided arguments when I could. If something upset me, I would try to talk about it. But if the conversation started turning into a fight, I'd swallow my frustration instead of pushing back. I started surprising her with little gifts, things I knew she liked. Flowers, perfume, even that expensive handbag she had been eyeing for months. Anything to show her I still cared, that I was still here. But none of it made a difference. She'd say thank you sometimes, but there was no real feeling behind it. No excitement, no appreciation. Just a half-hearted smile before she went back to scrolling on her phone. Then came the moment she told me she needed space. She needed to find herself. At first, I didn't question it. I figured maybe she was just working through something. So I gave her the space she asked for. I stopped trying to pull her closer. I let her go out more. I let her have her nights out. I let her do whatever she needed to do. But months went by, and nothing got better. If anything, it got worse. She became more and more self-absorbed, like she was the main character in some kind of story, and I was just the background. A prop in her life, someone who was there to serve her but never truly be loved by her. She started acting like she was settling by being with me, like she deserved better. And I won't lie, that hurt. I watched the woman I once loved drift further and further away, convincing herself she could do better than me. Loving someone who doesn't value you messes with your head. You start questioning yourself. Maybe they're right. Maybe you're not good enough. Maybe you're the problem. I spent so many nights staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what went wrong. What changed? What did I do? When did I stop being enough for her? But deep down, I already knew the answer. And no matter how much I loved her, I couldn't save someone who didn't want to be saved. I didn't know how much longer I could keep pretending everything was fine. Then came the night that changed everything. I had been waiting up for hours, staring at the clock, listening to the occasional car passing by outside. It wasn't the first time Madison had come home late, but something about that night felt different. When I finally heard the front door open, I let out a breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. I wasn't in the mood to argue. I was too drained for another fight. She walked in, unsteady on her feet. The smell of alcohol hit me before I even turned to look at her. She barely acknowledged me, tossing her bag onto the couch and kicking off her shoes. I swallowed my frustration and asked, "Madison, do you even realize what you're doing? This isn't just about coming home late. You're pushing me away. I've been patient. I continued, trying to keep my voice even. But you're not acting like a married woman anymore. She rolled her eyes, like I had just said something completely absurd. Then, with a smirk, she let out a laugh. Please, she scoffed. You think I need you? You really think you're that special? There are plenty of men who want me. I felt my chest tighten, but I refused to let it show. She wasn't finished. Straightening up, she looked me dead in the eye. I'm done living by your rules. I'm done living by anyone's rules. This is my life, and I'm going to live it however I want. Then she smiled. I'm in my baby girl era now, Ethan. Either deal with it or don't. And that was it. That was the moment I knew. I had lost her. Or maybe she had lost me. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I didn't beg her to see reason. What was the point? She had already made her choice, decided who she wanted to be, and it wasn't the woman I had married. So I did the only thing left for me to do. I let her have the life she wanted, and I walked away. The next morning, I did some searching and made a call to the best divorce lawyer I could find. I wasn't interested in dragging things out or making this harder than it needed to be. I just wanted a clean break. The legal process moved quickly, since we had no kids, and I wasn't about to waste time arguing over furniture or bank accounts. The whole thing was settled without much back and forth. I didn't care about what was fair or unfair. I just wanted out. I didn't even bother showing up for the final meeting. My lawyer handled it all. And once the papers were signed, I followed through with the one promise I had made to myself. I disappeared. No calls, no texts, no long, drawn-out conversations. I was just gone. At first, she didn't seem to mind. If anything, she looked relieved. She told herself this was her fresh start, her chance to finally be free. I caught glimpses of it on social media. Pictures of her out with friends, drinks in hand, living it up like she had won some kind of prize. Her captions were all about new beginnings and knowing your worth. And for a while, it seemed like she had moved on without looking back. She wasted no time jumping back into the dating scene. And of course, there were plenty of men eager to entertain her. But something was different now. She wasn't the prize she thought she was. Sure, she got attention, but not the kind she expected. The men who chased her weren't looking for commitment, just a good time. And the ones who were ready for something serious? They weren't the type of men she wanted. I wasn't there to see it firsthand, but word got back to me. She cycled through relationships fast, jumping from one guy to the next, never finding anything that lasted. One by one, they all left. The attention she once thrived on started to feel hollow, meaningless. That confidence she had worn so proudly began to crack. For the first time, she was alone. Not because she wanted to be, not for self-growth, but because she had pushed away the one person who actually loved her. How do I know? We still had mutual friends who kept in touch with her. As for me, I wasn't looking back. After the divorce, I had a choice to make. I could have thrown myself into another relationship, searching for someone to fill the void. I could have distracted myself with flings, empty connections, and quick highs. But I knew that wasn't the answer. That wasn't what I wanted. I had spent too long in a marriage where I felt invisible. Now it was time to choose myself. So I did. I channeled all my energy into my business, rebuilding, strengthening, and expanding what I had worked so hard to create. Work became more than just a job. It was proof that I was capable, that I had a purpose beyond being someone's husband. Slowly, I started seeing results. My business took off in ways I never imagined. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was in control of my life again. At the same time, I started focusing on my health, both physically and mentally. I got back in the gym not just to look better, but to feel stronger. I paid more attention to how I ate, how I slept, how I took care of myself, things I had ignored for years. I came to terms with a simple truth. Some people will never appreciate you, no matter how much you give. I refused to settle for anything that didn't add real value to my life. I wasn't going to let loneliness push me back into familiar, toxic cycles or into relationships that weren't right for me. I learned how to be alone without feeling lonely. I became comfortable in my own company, something I hadn't felt in years. Slowly, I started thriving. And that, more than anything, was my biggest victory. It had been years since I last saw Madison. That day, I was just out running errands, grabbing a few things from a department store when it happened. I turned a corner, and there she was, standing just a few feet away, holding a shopping bag, staring at me like she had seen a ghost. For a second, I almost didn't recognize her. She still looked good. She had always taken care of her appearance. Her eyes moved over me, scanning me. Finally, she spoke, her voice unsure, almost hesitant. "Ethan." I nodded, offering a polite smile. "Hey, Madison. Been a while." She let out a nervous laugh, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Wow, you look different." I shrugged. "Yeah, life's been good." She started asking questions, trying to keep the conversation going. "How have you been? What have you been up to?" I answered casually, never giving her too much, keeping it light. I wasn't rude, but I also wasn't giving her what she was hoping for. I had no idea what was going through her mind. After a few more minutes of small talk, she smiled, hesitant, unsure. "Maybe we could catch up sometime?" I smiled back. "Yeah, maybe." We both knew we wouldn't. That chapter of my life was closed. A few days later, she reached out. It started with a simple message. One of those casual, "Hey, it was nice seeing you the other day" texts. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Against my better judgment, I replied. From there, the conversation slowly picked up. Nothing deep, nothing emotional, just small talk. Catching up. Nostalgia creeping in, filling the spaces where anger and resentment used to live. Over the next few weeks, we exchanged messages now and then. She'd send a random text about something that reminded her of me. And despite everything, I couldn't deny it. The feelings were still there. Because love doesn't just disappear overnight. But what I came to understand was that love alone wasn't enough. The trust? That had been shattered a long time ago. One evening, she suggested we meet up. Just dinner. Just to talk. Part of me wanted to say yes. I won't lie, I was tempted. But then, I forced myself to ask a question I had been avoiding all this time. What was the point? What was I really looking for? An apology? Some kind of explanation? A chance to fix what was already beyond repair? No. Deep down, I knew the truth. I didn't need closure from her. I needed to give it to myself. So I declined. Not out of bitterness, not out of anger. Just with a simple, "I don't think that's a good idea." Took me a long time to admit that I was broken. I didn't want to acknowledge it. But Madison had damaged me more than I had realized. Not just because she left, but because of the way she made me feel before she did. Unworthy, replaceable, like I was never enough. At first, I convinced myself I was fine. I threw myself into my business, hit the gym more, surrounded myself with friends. But no matter how busy I kept myself, there was still this weight in my chest that wouldn't go away. I knew if I didn't deal with it, it would follow me into every part of my life. So, I did something I never thought I would do. I went to therapy. I won't lie. At first, it felt strange, sitting there, opening up to a stranger about things I had spent years burying. But week after week, things became clearer. I wasn't stupid for loving Madison. I wasn't weak for trying to save my marriage. I was just a man who gave his heart to the wrong person. And that wasn't a failure. It was a lesson I had to learn. Healing wasn't instant. It wasn't about waking up one day and suddenly feeling free. It happened in small moments. So, I burned every bridge with Madison. No more texts. No more small talk. No more what-ifs. I decided our story was over. And before I deleted her number, I sent one final message. Not out of anger, not out of spite, just the truth. I wish you the best. Looking back, I used to believe the only way to move on from someone who hurt you was to get even, to prove to them that they lost something valuable. But I realized something along the way. Revenge is a waste of energy. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply moving on, becoming the best version of yourself and letting them watch from a distance. And that, my friends, is exactly what I did. That's it for today's story. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like.